All right, we are live. Um, I guess the season finale of sorts. We'll have to sort out like how we'll do off-season shows, and I'm sure there'll be some stories that pop up that we'll hop on here and talk about. But just for the season itself, this is one last dance for the boys. And we got a national championship to recap, and mainly that the national championship once again resides in Gainesville, Florida. Todd Golden and the Florida Gators are on top of the college basketball world after a good competitive national championship game. I think it would have been a lot better had it not been for the officiating in the second half. I don't know. We'll get more into it, but I do feel like the officiating kind of drug that game down from what it was and should have been, but still a great game nevertheless. But probably could have been a lot better if not for the ref show it kind of turned into there. But um, we got a national championship to discuss, and head coach in his third year at Florida, and Todd Golden, who's going to coach for another 30 years plus probably, who starts off his career young and early with a national championship at a young age. And on the flip side of that, just I don't know how anybody who's a fan of college basketball can't just be gutted for Kelvin Sampson today to after the career he's had to be that close, that close and not pull through. And I don't know how many more years he plans on coaching, but um, really felt like last night was his best chance to win a national championship. But with that being said, how you guys doing tonight? How you guys feeling one day removed from the national championship?
Um,
Good,
yeah, last
man.
night was a
Great
great.
game.
I'd say that's one of the better national championships we've had since at least the Villanova North Carolina game.
Yeah, that was it
Um,
had shades of that. It certainly could have
mhm.
ended that way if Houston had better execution on their last
Yeah,
possession. But yeah, Florida's a worthy national champion. I think two of us in here picked them to win the title, and yeah, they made us look smart with that one. So wasn't looking good for a while there, but
yeah,
yeah, I think the better team ultimately ended up winning. I just hate for Houston how it happened and um, the way in which it happened. Just very big time, just choke job on their part. You could argue, but credit Florida. They only led for 64 seconds in the game, and it was a very important 64 seconds. So yeah, I think the better team won, and yeah, very very worthy national champion Florida is. So good on them, and they certainly have a roster to rebuild, but they have a lot of guys coming back. So
mhm.
that title certainly it's in the realm of possibility for them to defend it. So
Yeah, just a very impressive performance by Florida to come back in that game. They kind of lost their cool in the second half. There was a couple technicals.
yeah,
Walter Clayton Jr. didn't have his best game. He started getting going at the right time though. Just, I mean, it was a great. I think both teams played good games.
So my
The
phone just
first half, I think what ultimately hurt Houston the most, more than any of the turnovers, was their inability to hit shots. They bricked numerous shots in the first half, and somehow they were still ahead. Florida didn't really have their best offensive performance either. Um, but yeah, it was a great game all around. I picked Florida, so you can see by my background that's how I feel. I won the one shining bracket group. So
there you go.
yeah, now
but,
our bracket group that we've done, we got the back-to-back champions on here. Matt won it last year, and
mhm.
Jacob took the crown this year.
Yeah, well
from
deserved. Yeah.
last to first.
Yeah, it was, I don't know what my phone just randomly shut off. That was very weird. Um, when I disappeared there. Um, battery is fine and everything, but it just randomly turned off. But yeah, I thought I don't know what you guys said while I was trying to get back in, but I just thought in the first half the way Houston defended Clayton in the first half was, and it's no surprise, like they're the best defensive team in the country, but I thought they did an incredible job defending Clayton in the first half. Um, they just kept a man like pasted on him at all times, and then kept bringing Tugler and somebody from the paint like out to help on him, and kept switching guys on to him. And I thought the way they defended Clayton, like they obviously had him rattled and put more pressure on him than we've seen any team put on him. I was gonna say all year, at least in a long time. I don't have every game they played like off the top of my head to say that for sure, but like I thought that was a master class in the first half by Houston, and how they defended Clayton. Like they did an awesome job just doubling him at all times, but also not just like completely selling out and making like their whole mission on defense to stop him. Like they would just switch guys on and off of him, and bring help from the paint, stop him from penetrating the defense, and getting anywhere with the ball, and like uh, contesting every look he had. Like, just thought Houston really the whole game on Clayton. Like Clayton, even in the second half, he hit some big shots, but didn't like take the game over or anything. I thought it was just like just a defensive masterclass by Houston to stop Walter Clayton, and how they defended that, and that was the reason that they were in this game till the bitter end.
Yeah, they defended Clayton. I mean, they came into that game first of all with this guy is not going to beat
Oh,
us.
here we
It's
go.
going to have to be somebody else, and that was the right thing for them to do ultimately, because they executed that to near perfection. The first half he was obsolete, and they were in complete control of the game. There was really parts of that game where a lot of the Florida guys, particularly the big guys, Condon especially, just looked like he was getting torched. Every time up and down the floor on the glass, he had two travels in the first half of that game, and he looked all kinds of out of sorts. So Houston was all over him and really went in with the right idea. I did think that Todd Golden made some really good adjustments with him in the second half. Clayton finished the game with 7 assists. He was still able to be valuable. They put him off the ball a little more. Will Richard was Florida's best player in this game by a comfortable margin. He was the best guard on the floor, regardless, like between both teams. He was great. And there were times where, like, Todd Golden went away from Clayton in the second half. One of the big runs they went on in that game was with Clayton on the bench. So I think Houston almost did too good of a job. It felt like at points. They shut down Clayton completely, but because of that, Florida was able to find other ways to beat them, and that's what those championship teams do. And but yeah, credit Houston. That was their first objective going into that game, and they shut down Walter Clayton completely. And if you are Houston, I know the way they lost was pretty terrible, but you took away the best guard in the country, arguably the best player who was playing at the highest level in the NCAA tournament. You took him away, and you made somebody else beat you. Multiple other guys beat you, and that's all they can really ask for. Their team in that situation still had a chance to win. So, yeah, I do think if you ask going into the game that Clayton would play 35 minutes, make 1 3, and have 11 points, I think Houston would have taken that, and I probably would have told you that Houston would have won the game going in. But yeah, give Florida credit. The other guys stepped up. Will Richard completely just took that game over for Florida and was their best player.
No.
Yeah.
Now I hated the way that game was officiated in the second half, and like I'm not just saying that because I was rooting for Houston, but there's like it felt like in the first half, they were really letting them play both sides. There were only 4 total fouls in the first half. They called 3 on Florida and 1 on Houston, I believe. Or maybe it was vice versa, but either way, it's like I remember there were only 4 total fouls in the first half. And then they came out early and it was like bang, 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 bang. They started calling fouls on Florida early in the
It
second
was
half.
so it was 5-0 in
Yeah.
the start of the second half, which is really just unheard of in a Houston game. And the message to the Florida team at halftime must have been we have got to match or get close to the level of physicality and intensity they're playing with on defense. And some of those guys, genuinely especially, took that way too literally almost, and got himself into some trouble there.
So, like you said, some of those calls on Florida were the right calls, obvious fouls, and there was the one where Clayton pushed the guy in the back, that's a foul, you got to call that, and there was but then after Florida got that tech from the bench, it felt like the refs just completely overcorrected, and then tried to give Florida makeup calls because at that point, like you said, it was 5-0 in the fouls. They gave Florida the tech, and I guess they just wanted to even it out in their heads that they felt like they were calling it too one side, but they just went. So they went from letting Houston play their brand of basketball and play physical to they were just whistling everything for Houston. They called after that tech Florida got, there was 9 straight foul calls on Houston.
Yeah.
That is egregious. Florida was in the double bonus with 9 minutes left in the second half.
I think both teams were, yeah. I think it was to the point that both teams got there by 12 minutes left in the
Florida did not. I remember Florida did not get to the double bonus, or Houston didn't. I'm sorry, till I think 3.5 minutes left, because I think it was the under 4 was the foul that got Houston in the double bonus. But Florida was there with 9 minutes left in the second half, and I think the officials just completely overcorrected down the game. That one possession where they just called 3 fouls in 9 seconds on Francis. What? I mean, they were just they pretty much completely eliminated Francis and Tugler from that game. And the way they were officiating it, I don't know. I hate to see a game I like the way they officiated it in the first half, where they weren't calling much of anything unless it was egregious in the first half, but it was both ways. They weren't really calling fouls on either team, and I think it would have been great to watch it play out if they officiated the whole game that way. But then again, I don't know if Florida would have been able to get back into this game if they didn't just start whistling Houston for everything. So maybe it worked out for Florida, that being the case, or it definitely worked out for Florida being the case. Maybe that worked out for making it a more competitive game. But I was just not happy at all with how that game was officiated in the back half of the second half.
I mean, I think it was just the results of a physical game. Houston just kind of met their match intensity wise. You just I know Tugler was kind of playing hurt, and I think we saw the results of that in the second half. Houston's defense was good, but I know they had some sloppy. They were getting too aggressive when they shouldn't have, and kind of lost their identity for a little bit there. Florida, I mean, was throwing the same thing and getting called. There's just a bunch of fouls, I do know just kind of Florida broke them down like what happened with Auburn. They kind of Houston started committing turnovers there towards the end of the game, and for as bad of a shooting performance Clayton had in the first half, he hit his 3 at the exact right time he should have hit it. That was probably one of the bigger shots of the game.
Florida did not make a field goal after the under 4 in that game, which they went on to win. But that was just insane. Like that they went on to win that game without making a field goal.
Well,
in the last,
Clayton made a
basically.
3 when it was they were down 3, and he tied it at 60 with the 3. I know that.
That was like right before the under 4, because I believe, and I'll like correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that was
I don't think
under
they
4
made.
minutes. That was like at 3 minutes, I think.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that was their like made. Yeah, that was their one like lone make there. But yeah, I mean, talking about the officiating, this unfortunately like there has been a track record of this in national championship games in the past. Most notably, there was officiating controversy. When Wisconsin and Duke played, remember that one? There was a huge out of bounds play on Justice Winslow that didn't go Wisconsin's way. That did not do them any favors. And
Carolina, Gonzaga.
Yep,
that one was horrible.
That one was probably the worst I've
ever
seen.
That was egregious.
Zach Collins fouled out of the game with 7 minutes or 8 minutes, and that pretty much just did Gonzaga in.
Even further back, the UConn Butler.
Sure. Yeah, that was
that was a bad one.
So unfortunately, these things have happened in national championship games. For this one, I do think the first half was officiated. I had no issues with how the first half was. You
did, because you were complaining about it.
I mean, I did, but like the jarring thing is like Houston is so much more like physical and on top of these teams than anyone else. Like anyone else that you'll see, it's them in Tennessee. They like put that kind of defensive pressure on, and if you watch closely, like I would not argue if they fouled out like Tugler and Jawan Roberts and Francis in the first half. If you like, depending on like what you're willing for them to get away. Now they'd be out of an NBA game immediately because of how they defend. But yeah, they just are extremely just in your face and physical, and they defend well. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of those fouls they committed in the second half were probably fouls, but they weren't fouls in the first half. So that was probably the biggest turn of events there. Yeah, and I think the first half is important for the refs, for the officials, because you're basically determining, okay, this is how this game is going to be. It's going to be refed. Like we're gonna let all these go, and this is just we're gonna let you play. But under the basket, it's just a war. And Houston did this to Tennessee. Like Houston was so physical with Tennessee that they were like, you can't come into the paint. So you have to hoist up these horrible jumpers and everything. And, with Florida, it was a little different. And I do think the refs allowed that to get where it was because, when you call like Florida for the first 5 fouls of the half and 2 technicals. Now, I will say 3 of those 5 are probably like no brainer. Those are fouls like any day of the week. The problem is where they got themselves into trouble was like, okay, well, Houston's been for the other 2, you're like, okay, Houston's been doing this the entire game, and they don't get called, and because that's just kind of their reputation and everything.
There was a couple of soft fouls on Florida, I will say
then the 2 technicals, which are fine. Like Chinulu, I didn't agree with the call. I wouldn't have called the technical myself, but you know what? By the letter of the law, it's a technical.
To me, it's the bench one is the one you can have more
the bench one about. I think is the worst one because benches get out of control all the time for bad calls. I don't know what could have possibly had been said for that one that they have to give the bench a technical.
I guess they said them coming up on the court. They got up on the court.
I think it was building up to that point because like it happened in the Auburn game on Saturday too. Like the Florida bench was out of control this whole tournament with like assistants jumping up on the floor and screaming at like the Florida bench was losing their minds like this entire tournament.
Yeah.
I think it was
the time to call that is against Norfolk State or UConn and not wait until the national championship game to lay down the law with the bench.
I think if I'm guessing what happened was the Houston people and the other refs probably saw what was going on with the Florida bench during the Auburn game on Saturday because they were doing the same shit in the Auburn game. And I'm guessing that somebody from Houston or Sampson like had a conversation with the refs before the game and was like, or maybe the officials from the previous game had a conversation with the refs from this game and was like, hey, like watch this Florida bench. They were out of control on Saturday. Like, and then they were doing the same shit in the first half and early in the second half. And I think it was just kind of it like I'm sure they got tipped off about it. And then in this game, like it built up to that point where they were like, all right, like we got to do something about this.
Yeah, and I think you're correct when you say they felt as if they had to like level it out then with how they were, officiating the game, that they had to, even the count kind of thing, if you will. And, I'm sure the Florida bench was on, like, Todd Golden especially was like, you owe us like several calls here kind of thing. And I think at that point they did overcorrect and they were like looking for the slightest infraction or like just attempted infraction on some of those. And yeah, I mean, the Houston guys are physical and they're intense, but yeah, I do think it's kind of like it is unfair to just be like, yeah, remember all that shit you got away with in the first half? No, not
Yeah,
anymore. Like it's not
I
happening
mean,
now.
Houston got away with a lot in general in the
Yeah.
tournament.
And,
Like
So
and
I yeah,
I
if they
think it's
wanted to
kind of
clamp
the
down on it
equal.
in the first half, yeah, but like
sure.
if you're letting Houston play one way and play one style of basketball and then you just completely like 60-70% of the game gone, then you just completely shift how you've called this entire game. Like that's what I don't like. It's like call the game, which I'm arguing against Seth Davis's moronic tweet, like applauding the refs for blowing the whistle. I just think like if you're gonna call the game one way in the first half, call it like that all the way through. Like
I wish Purdue got Florida's whistle
Yeah, so
in our game.
yeah, it's frustrating though, and especially when you like, yeah, a lot of these on Houston are fouls. They are fouling. Like Tugler, especially, is one of the most physical post defenders you will ever see
Yeah.
in basketball, and that guy just, of course, like most of his, if not all, like they foul people, and it's not like it's just how they play,
It's
and
like
they're daring the refs to be like, call this right now, like you won't, like this is
that's
how we play.
that's one thing. Like if you're a fan of a physical team, like you shouldn't be surprised when you get called for fouls.
Yeah.
I know Tennessee fans incessantly say, "Oh, what? We get called for fouls," and it's like,
Yeah.
You're one of the 2 or 3 most physical teams by
Yeah.
style in the NCAA. Don't complain about it.
It happened in the
You get
SEC
called.
championship game, and Houston, Tennessee just kind of unraveled completely, and just could not stop committing fouls on Florida in the SEC championship game. And yeah, I'm just shocked here that Houston did not have to go through one of those games. St. John's got eliminated because Kadari Richmond and Zuby Edgefer, I think, fouled out for them, and Kadari Richmond's foul out was extremely controversial and probably should not have been out of the game on that. And every one of those physical teams has to go through like a game where like your bench depth is tested because you're in foul trouble, and they did not have to go through one single game with that the entire tournament until yesterday. So
yeah, the only time I ever, like I said, the only time I remember they did is Tugler, I think, only played like 20 minutes or maybe less than that, like 15, 20 minutes, something like that in the Big 12 championship game.
yeah,
Which, like, they didn't end up really needing him anyway. But I remember Tugler was in foul trouble in that Big 12 championship game and ended up fouling out. But, like, other than that, like, that's the only one that, like, jumps off the page thinking about Houston games that came to mind.
yeah, and it factors in also to the game flow, but I honestly think that benefits Houston. Like I think all that stuff because they want that game to be as slow and without a rhythm for Florida as much as possible. I actually think that Houston probably was not against all the stoppages or anything else, especially in a game where there's so many stoppages, there's so many huddles, especially where Houston believes they have a coaching advantage, which they might have in that game that Sampson could have had. The amount of times that Sampson could see that team and, plan for, how they're going to defend and, draw something up for them to go, their best sets that they have. I think that actually probably benefited Houston, and I know it didn't, work for them in the end there, but yeah, I think the flow of that game and the amount of whistles, like probably, I usually tend to believe that kind of game benefits whoever has the better coach in that game. So I don't think Houston was against that per se from a like game flow standpoint, but yeah, obviously having some of their guys in foul trouble that kills them. Like it's just changes the game.
To go along with what you're saying, it's like, yeah, like before that last possession, like I didn't like Sampson calling that timeout there, and like because like that's not like I feel like Houston at that point, it's like just inbound it and go to the basket, like because like you go to the basket, like you're a strong physical team, like you got good bigs. If it's like if you can get it in there and get to the basket, like chances are it's like you're gonna get a bucket or you're gonna get a foul call, and then like you're gonna have a chance to tie this game and send it to overtime. And instead, like I didn't like them calling the timeout, and then like what they drew up is like trying to find a 3-pointer to win the thing.
Yeah,
which is just not really how they played all year. Like
they tried to find Cryer, but Florida shut that down. So
yeah, the best way to defend Sampson here, if I were to speculate what they were thinking, would probably be like as soon as Clayton's starting to find himself later on in that game, made some pretty huge plays for them, and on top of that, Tugler's out. So Tugler's out of the game. So I think that they felt like as soon as Tugler went out, we have got to win this in regulation because we are not going to beat them in overtime. We probably will not be.
Francis is playing with 4 as well.
Yeah. So I think that the way Sampson thought was we have to win this now. Like we will probably not win in overtime. We have to beat this team in regulation. And especially if they left enough time for Florida to come back with a tie game, and the way Clayton's starting to get into himself, the way Richard's playing, and no Tugler. So the basket for them is, in their minds, probably wide open. They're one bad switch away, one huge Condon screen, and roll to the basket away from being completely exposed in that area. So I think that Sampson probably felt we have got to win this game now. And they went into that with, like, you could see how that play was developing. There was no action going to the basket. There were very few dives or anything. And yeah, I think that they were getting a 3-up regardless. That was what they had in mind. And it was going to have to be from, Uzan, Cryer, or Sharp. Those were the 3 best shooters. And, just really, I can't really say enough about how, like, one, the possession there was not nearly enough urgency in the possession for Houston. Just walking it up the floor with that amount of time. And I think at that point, the actions on the floor, Florida was able to read that this is going to be a 3 by someone. So Clayton just sold out completely for that contest because they knew that it was going to, be a 3. And yeah, I hate how it ended for Houston. That sucks. That's awful for Sharp. And like he should have picked it up because there's still time. They're only down 2. If the clock stops with 3 seconds and someone's, they got to inbound the ball. Florida's not a good free throw shooting team. So, I just think just a total.
There's also a
collapse.
Chance the ref just doesn't call that there.
Sure. Who knows?
Like obviously Auburn knows about that in the Final Four.
So it's happened before. And, on that kind of stage, I just think they, there's so many things they could have done differently. But yeah, Sharp not picking up that ball. I mean, I know what he's thinking in real time, but that just is just a huge
you just
gap
gotta,
on their part.
You got to turn
like
it
if you
over.
don't pick up the ball. Sorry, go ahead, Jacob. My bad.
I was gonna say, like, even if you get the turnover, like you still have a chance. Like, even if it's small, like.
And it's just so much easier
to get there. Like, the game's over. Like,
Florida dove on the ball like as soon as he dropped it and wasn't picking it up. They just instantly dove on it.
Yeah, really well played by Condon, and that just ended the game. For Houston, I just can't believe that's how they got beat.
Yeah, it was a disaster class last 30 seconds because they had a chance to score the previous possession. He dribbled it off of his leg,
Yeah.
going to the basket.
Yeah. And yeah, that was just like really, really tough turnovers, back-to-back possessions with turnovers for Houston. Cryer had the one before that, and then Sharp had dribbled it off his foot, and then the last possession. So yeah, just hate that for Houston. But yeah, that's, I mean, it's crazy. I would never have expected them to get beat that way on like mental mistakes, and I hate it for him, but
Florida won a Houston game against Houston.
Yeah, and
I mean,
yeah, Florida's second halves all tournament. They beat Texas Tech playing a Texas Tech game, maybe, and they beat Houston playing a Houston game. So yeah, they, that was, Todd Golden, just hats off, like incredible basketball coach, incredible tournament. Just being down to that Houston team by 12 in the second half and coming back to beat them is just unheard of. I don't think any other team in college basketball could have pulled that off except them. So well deserved on their part for sure.
I think what summarizes the end of that game, Walter Clayton Jr. Went over to Sharp after the game. Was consoling him, even in victory. I think that was the best.
Like,
I mean, that's a good
can you
act
imagine
of
you just lost the
sportsmanship.
national championship and the guy that just beat you is like, it's okay, bro. Like,
I mean, what a good dude, Walter Clayton Jr. I'm like,
I gotta find this tweet I sent earlier. It said, "Imagine losing the national title because you didn't get a shot off, and the winning team player comes behind you talking about our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate." Like,
that is funny.
Like, I mean,
but
in all seriousness, like, yeah, hats off to Clayton. I think that was some great sportsmanship. But like, if you're Houston in that situation, it's like, do you really want the ops like telling you how great you are and that it's going to be okay?
I mean, I'd rather have that than the other team shit talking like freaking. I don't know, but
yeah, that was that CBS ate that one up, and yeah, that was Clayton seems like a good dude by all accounts, and virtually just carried that Florida team there until the final game. So,
did you see him kick the mascot out of his family photo?
Alligator.
Al, yes, Al and Alberta were not in it. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it. Fucking, it's our last show with it. Like, which one was his mom and which one was his girlfriend, or like, I was confused with like the family situation with all the people Clayton was taking pictures with, because it's like,
I'm not sure, honestly.
He takes a picture with the one lady, and like I didn't like, and then he takes a picture with the one holding the baby, and I was like, but like they both looked like I was like, I didn't know who was who in this situation for Walter Clayton's family.
As long as his family isn't as messed up as JJ McCarthy's family, if you know what I'm talking about.
Where you're talking about his dad trying to like that was an interesting one.
Do the Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just liked him taking the picture, and like fucking Al was just like part of the family in the picture, and he had to like shoo the fucking mascot out of his family picture. That was a hilarious moment.
That did not make it to one shining moment, I'm afraid.
Hey, I'll tell you what moment should have made it to one shining moment. Sasquatch State. Shout out
Simpson
to Sasquatch
is a great
State.
quote. Yeah.
Man, it felt like, I don't know, like it literally felt like after that Duke game ended, and then last night we just got a completely different Kelvin Sampson than like we've ever seen, because like after that Duke game, like him like jumping up on the scorer's table and like coming, I guess it even happened like when they beat Tennessee, or was it when they beat Tennessee or they beat Duke? He came dancing into the locker room. I was like,
when they beat Duke.
I was like, is this the first time Kelvin Sampson has ever smiled?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, and then
they had it going on after that Duke game.
but I mean, it's like we said though, you have to be gutted for Kelvin
Mhm.
Sampson though, because you don't know how many. I mean, Houston's going to re-rack and like they're going to be back and have a chance to win it again. I mean, they just got Papa Isaacs earlier. Like
Yeah,
They'll be a
Houston
he
top
will
is
be
8
back.
a
team next
Houston
year.
guard made in a lab for Houston. He's like Miles Suzanne with confidence. He is good.
I think like if you had to bet on one of these two teams to be back here next year, you're taking Houston 10 times out of 10
I,
because Florida's barely has a roster right now, and they're obviously at a disadvantage getting a late go on things after going on this national championship run. And also, like I feel like there's a realistic chance Ty Golden is in the running for that Nuggets job that just came open today.
I was thinking, like, I've been thinking this whole time. I was like, Todd Golden's headed to the NBA.
The fact that that Nuggets job came open like the day after the national championship game, right before the NBA playoffs start, like
Mhm.
I like my first thought was Golden when I saw that because it's just like maybe it's just a coincidence that it was the day after the national championship, but I was like, it feels like if that's when they decide to do this and it's right before the NBA playoffs, like the latest we've ever seen a coach get fired in an NBA season ever, like maybe they just know like we're not going to compete for a championship this year and like to me it's like it's them sending a message to Todd Golden like hey, like you're our guy, you're who we want and like they can start having those conversations now without a sitting head coach like
It's
so
it's funny you mentioned that. I was gonna bring up the uh, Todd Golden's the youngest uh, college coach to make the national championship since Brad Stevens made it with Butler.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Kevin
That
Ollie obviously didn't have him beat by that much either. And we know
Mhm.
Kevin Ollie is like similar situation to what Golden's going to be in now if he gets NBA offers, where it's like Ollie went on a couple national championship runs or one national championship run. The other one was still Calhoun, but he went on the championship run with Shabazz Napier and he had a chance to go coach the Thunder, right?
Yeah.
And turned it down. And obviously things did not go well for him at UConn and kind of went off the tracks. And that was the end of his coaching career. And he could have had a soft landing there in the NBA with the Thunder, and obviously elevated himself. And he chose to stay at UConn. And it's like now it's like if there's a realistic chance, if you're Todd Golden and you get offered a chance to go to the NBA and coach Nikola Jokic on a silver platter, the best player in the NBA, like I'm sure he loves Florida, but you have to take that job, right?
plus he's a West Coast guy. He's not like a Southeast guy. He's just kind of gotten into that role. I mean, from being an assistant at Auburn and other opportunities, like just kind of fell into that
Yeah, I
because he
don't
came.
think Todd's gonna take that job if I had to guess. I First of all, the Nuggets are in a weird spot where it's not as simple as just hiring the head coach right now. For them, they fired everyone. Like Malone's gone, Booth, the GM, is gone. That was a weird situation. If Malone did not win the finals in 2023, he would have been fired, I think. And since then, like Malone has always been like a big like we're gonna play our veteran players and we want to play veteran guys. And Calvin Booth has been shoving like Christian Brown and Julian Strother and younger players right like always down his throat to play, and they've hated each other I guess for some time and they were not really on speaking terms. So I think that what the Nuggets are probably going to do first is hire a GM. They're probably going to try to get Bob Myers out of retirement and get him to run the Nuggets. And then from then, they are going to let whoever that GM is pick whoever he wants the coach to be. I would be surprised if it were Todd Golden, just because I think that, like, I think he's got a good thing at Florida. At minimum, he should probably use that for some leverage for a raise. Like
I mean, that's
how's
what we saw Dan Hurley do
yeah
last year. Like,
Sure. Yeah. I think that's something that he'll probably end up doing. But yeah, I don't foresee him. He does not really have like a huge NBA background. He played at St. Mary's. Just not really his career's been in college coaching. I would be surprised if he were um,
Uh,
on the NBA track. But we'll see. Guys have done that before. Brad Stevens had no background in NBA basketball or anything, and he did not play at a Division I level of basketball. And he went to the Celtics and was really successful NBA coach, and now best GM in basketball. So
Billy Donovan.
Yeah, it's certainly happened.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy to think
see
the Nuggets may not be the only NBA job they would offer him. It's funny, or the Spurs may come open this year with Greg Popovich's health issues. So watch that one as well.
Yeah, the NBA openings are interesting just because I feel like everyone's go-to, they're like, is Jay Wright available? That's always like, can we get Jay Wright? Because that's always who, he was the best coach when, he was coaching probably for a good few years when he was at his peak at Villanova. But yeah, ultimately, there will be a lot of NBA jobs open. I don't see very many like guys ready to make, like Kevin Young from BYU would be the obvious one because he was offered the Nets job before he took the BYU job. Now, it will be hard for Kevin Young to leave BYU. Fun fact, he is a direct descendant of Brigham Young. So
What?
It will be, yes.
What?
Yes, yeah.
Holy.
Yes.
Oh my God. What?
Yes.
That is insane. You learn something new every day.
Yes,
Wow.
that's why he's there, because he is like, I'm trying to think of what his exact lineage is, but he is a direct descendant from that line of family. Is like, he's so hold on, let me see here. He's the great grandson of Lorenzo Young, the brother of Brigham Young. So yeah, he is
That's insane.
yes. So there's your fun fact for the day. The more you know.
That makes sense why he went to
Yes.
BYU.
Yeah, did Brigham Young ever get AJ DeBansta?
Yeah. So that's why he's at BYU, and that's going to be why it's going to be really, really hard for him to leave, because he is in like a direct descendant of the namesake of the university.
I'm gonna be honest. That sounds like a South Park skit from a South Park episode.
So yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, I don't see Kevin Young leaving BYU anytime soon because of that. But because of his NBA background, he would have been the obvious choice for most NBA openings. So we'll see. But
I think
still
an obvious, if we're talking about like NBA coach or guys who can make the jump to the NBA, that as much as I can't stand the guy too, just being objective, like I could see Nate Oates getting NBA looks. Like he definitely has an NBA style to how he coaches and like how he runs that program in general. And he's not like the most, like how he coaches and his like talks to players. He's not like the most like bombastic guy where like it kind of like how he carries himself and coaches like could translate to the NBA, like other than like his tantrums on the sideline and yelling at referees and stuff. Like I don't know how that would, like, he's kind of like a Dan Hurley Jr. in that aspect where he's like losing his mind every game. And like, so I don't know how that stuff translates to the NBA, but I just think like their play style in general, like if we're just on the subject of college guys who could get a look, I think he would definitely be on the short list for that.
Wait.
Yeah, he fits that.
I wasn't paying attention. Who did you say?
Nate Oates.
Nate Oates. I mean, he kind of Nate Oates kind of looks like Steve Kerr, if we're honest. Steve Kerr has been known to get heated on the sidelines and break a board or two.
I am very disappointed that, not disappointed, but I do think it would have been hilarious if Kelvin Sampson were rumored to take the Lakers job last year, just so we could see like the reactions for the practice footage of them like diving on the loose balls all across the court and their practice drills and everything. Like, yeah, LeBron and Luka, get ready to hit the deck with Coach Sampson here.
I still like. We're talking like. I wish we could just see like the alternate universe where Dan Hurley took that Lakers job. Like, can you
I
imagine
do not
like
think it would have went
LeBron
well.
like holding Dan Hurley back because Dan Hurley's like trying to tackle an NBA official and he got like LeBron and Luka holding him back. Like, would Dan Hurley have made it through one whole season as the Lakers coach if he took?
I think
job?
he would have made it a season and then probably, yeah. I do not think he's in like. I think that could be in his future, but he could not coach probably the practice intensity, which he wants them to practice at. I do not think that is possible within the NBA unless you have a group of players who are willing to meet that. Like, unless you have a team full of like Kevin Garnett.
The Lakers are not that team.
Yeah, the Lakers are not any LeBron.
Dan Hurley could probably fit as like the coach of like the Pistons or the Cavs or somewhere like that.
But I mean, you said the Cavs. We saw it with John Beeline. What did he make? Like 25 games before they pulled the plug on that because the players.
John Beeline's thing was that he called the players thugs, and then he was like, "No, I said slugs. I didn't say thugs." It's like, what?
That was a very different situation.
It's a shame because John Beeline's a great basketball coach. But yeah, I didn't really read too much. I didn't really read too much into his tenure with the Cavs there, but yeah, it sounds like it was not the best. So
I mean, they were literally threatening to sit out games, like if he didn't get fired. Like,
yeah, like tough, okay. This is where, I'm like, okay, guys, he's not Donald Sterling. Like, let's go. Come on. Let's play. Ugh.
Oh, shit. Well, yeah. So, anything else on the national championship or Florida or any of that before we just kind of recap, I guess, talk a little bit about the season as a whole and our favorite stories and going into the off season. But before we move on from the national championship, anything else you guys want to mention?
About to be a very angry Masters for Jim Nantz, as you said there. And yeah, good news for Houston. I think their recent roster moves and who they should have coming back, they should be probably preseason number one going in.
I think it's between Houston and Purdue for preseason number one next year.
I think those are the two. Watching the games this weekend, I was like, I think a Purdue versus Houston matchup is going to be the national championship next year. My early pick, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's just like Houston has an insanely good recruiting class coming in as well. They have Chris Senak, who's like a top 5 recruit, should start for them immediately in their front court, and yeah, they're in a good place, so they should probably be preseason number one if I had to give it to anyone. But who knows? There's still so much to be done for these teams in the portal and such, so we'll see.
Yeah, the way too early top 25s, like right after the national championship.
Yes,
when these teams are like.
Yeah, someone had like Duke number 2. I was like, how many of these people are coming back? Like,
on threes was the worst.
I didn't even see that one.
Yeah, that one was ESPN one. They had Purdue at number 12. Like what?
They had I saw ESPN had Michigan as the number 5
team
in the
Michigan,
country the next year.
People were talking about that on the Purdue forums, and I was like, what the frick? What are we doing?
Yaxel isn't even going to play there.
Yeah, he's He may not
If
even end
Yaxel
up at
plays,
Michigan.
Yaxel will carry, like, he will be the real deal for Michigan, but he's also in, like, NBA, like, draft board discussion here, so he might not play there, but if he does, watch out. That guy is a machine. He
Auburn
is
was
incredibly good.
Auburn was very much in the mix for him. I will say I was very disappointed they didn't close the job on that because Auburn was in the mix for him.
Yeah,
Um,
Yaxel's a force.
Auburn did get Keyshawn Hall though, so I am excited for that. Like they're gonna have to go get a couple bigs, but Keyshawn Hall is going to be a stud, the leading scorer in the Big 12. He even got a shout out from Raftery during the national championship last night. Um, has me pretty excited for next season already. But just yeah, the season as a whole, man, hell of a season, and it's like it really feels like this year is kind of the lack, because who knows with this house settlement and the revenue sharing and coming and stuff, like how much this is going to change and reshape the future of college basketball. So like for it felt like, the portal stuff is obviously like reaching a tipping point, and hopefully that stuff will help it. But this was really like kind of the end of an era in college basketball, because I feel like the sport's going to look a lot different. Really, all college sports are going to look a lot different once this judge in California, who just holds the future of college athletics in the palm of her hand, which is insane, comes with that decision. But yeah, like this really is kind of like, it really does feel like the end of an era in college basketball. I do think things are going to look a lot different once this decision is made. So like that's my first thought on this season is that it was the last of this iteration of college athletics that we've known as long as we have.
Yeah, that's definitely it's one of the many questions that they're gonna have to be answered, and yeah, for some of these schools, if they're gonna have to make student athletes employees of the universities and colleges they play for, that could be a very interesting discussion, a very different discussion. I don't think it'll change that much because, like, it's not as if because in the NBA, like, I think people sometimes think they have a problem where, like, okay, well, this player is making $20 million more dollars a year than the head coach. I don't think St. John's is ever going to pay a player who makes more than Rick Pitino, or Auburn's never going to play a player who makes more than Bruce Pearl. So I think that power structure is going to remain the same. But yeah, I mean, it's a different discussion for sure. So yeah, stay tuned for that, because that is just the beginning of it. So I don't think it'll change anything like college basketball as we know it per se to that
Yeah.
level.
Mm-hmm.
Like the NCAA tournament will still go on. We will not be filling out brackets for the crown. We're still gonna be.
Well, one of the
good folks.
senators introduced a bill to just disband the NCAA completely. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw that, but
Yeah,
that was one that was suggested there.
Yeah, good luck.
I know the only impact we may see is like sort of a smaller, like lower level schools dropping down to
To D3.
status. Yeah,
It
you saw
already
that with
happened
St.
with St.
Francis.
Francis, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
There will be a lot more, sadly.
Especially in the Northeast, which kind of sucks because a lot of those are smaller schools. They have kind of rich basketball history, so hopefully there isn't any big ones. I know there was a graphic posted on, I think it may have been Reddit, like schools that are in debt or kind of like in debt for their size, and there's some surprising names on there.
Well, like one, like, so I was looking earlier, and it's like, so I think to opt into the revenue sharing, you're gonna have to like there's a minimum threshold of like your revenue as an athletic department, and it's like it'll be like 20 million, I think, and it's So I just saw one earlier, like it's 10, 20 million, I think. Like Marshall is operating at like a $1.5 million. Like, it's like that is not enough money for Marshall, for example, to even opt into revenue sharing.
Yeah.
So it's like, how many of these schools are like just not even going to have enough profit to even be a part of this revenue sharing?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one we probably won't know the answer to for quite a decent amount of time here. But yeah, that'll definitely be something to keep an eye out for. Yeah, I do not know the answer for some of those like mid-major athletic departments, how they're going to proceed. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, Florida or football still pays all the bills. So in the case of Marshall, some of those other schools, Washington State's another one, and Oregon State, they just made like huge renovations to their athletic facilities with the future of a Pac-12 TV deal in mind that they were going to have, and now that doesn't exist. So they're going to be operating at probably huge deficits themselves. So a lot of those
And you also,
schools, yeah, go
like,
ahead.
I was just going to give a couple more examples. Like SMU, Stanford, and Cal, like paying money to play in the ACC.
Yes,
Like,
and my brother works in the athletic department at Stanford, and I know a lot of people over there now. And he has said they just made a change in athletic director. Bernard Muir was the previous athletic director at Stanford, and Bernard's a nice guy, and he at times was a very headstrong on certain things, and one of them was the move to the ACC, and it was a real scramble play by Stanford and Cal, especially that they thought that this was going to be in the best interest. Obviously, it has worked out horribly. The travel is horrible. The recruiting efforts are not being helped by them being in the ACC. The competition for most of the sports is not what they thought it was going to be. And they just made a new change. They have a new president of the university. They have a new athletic director. And at these meetings now with the athletic department, the president of the university has basically come out and said that being in the ACC for the university is not feasible. It's not going to work, and they are trying to get out. They made a new athletic director hire. The new athletic director hire is a businesswoman. Like, it's someone with a business background, and basically the talk amongst people who work in college sports right now is that it's heading towards a business type of background to get involved. It's going to be a lot more business people as athletic directors, business people as administrators, because the most important thing now is balancing the books and the finances of the job. So it's an interesting thing to watch going forward in terms of the revenue sharing and where some of these schools are going to be playing, because in this case of Cal and Stanford, both of those schools should not be expected to be in the ACC much longer.
I mean, SMU as well. It's like, I'm sure making the college football playoff was huge for their athletic department and revenue, but like they're kind of in the same boat where it looks like they're paying money to play in the SEC or the ACC, and they're operating at a loss to play there. And it's like I said, I don't know how. Like, I'm sure making the college football playoff was probably a significant boost for that athletic department revenue wise to make that move to the ACC more feasible for them, but they're also in that same boat.
I think SMU is quite a bit different than Cal and Stanford. I know SMU has loaded donors.
They do.
That we saw that with them poaching Andy Enfield from USC in basketball.
And they are doing field renovations right now at their football stadium. They're going from turf to grass, and they're really trying to make the necessary upgrades in their mind to keep up with the rest of the schools in Texas.
And that culture still exists there even after, back in the 80s they built a football superpower, and then got that ripped away from the scandals that went on. But that culture is still there, so we'll see how they build keep building.
So, just with this college basketball season in general, I was just going to ask you guys, like, thinking back to it, like, as what are some of your favorite moments of this season that you're going to look back and remember this season for, like, beyond just the tournament and Final Four, national championship, like whatever, just like what are the moments from this season that you're never going to forget that stick out to you guys?
So, Jacob, the question he's asking you is, what's your favorite Purdue moment of the season?
Purdue moment.
I don't know. Jacob's got DePaul. They got their first Big East win in 2 years. That's probably one of his top
kicking
moments.
Alabama's ass at Mackey Arena in November, or the Michigan game where he smoked the crap out of them in Mackey.
There are some good ones for sure. I definitely think the number one moment that has got to be that Duke Houston Final Four game, for sure. That's got to be the one that is probably going to withstand the test of time for years now. More so than probably the national championship game itself. That Final Four game. National championship was a great game. I think the tournament will be kind of. I don't know how this tournament will be remembered, but it's certainly going to be one of, like, the chalk may have been annoying the first week of the tournament, but it made for some great Elite Eight games, great Final Four games, great national championship. So I do think the tournament will probably be remembered fondly for that. The SEC, I think the SEC, this will probably be a year that people look back maybe 5-10 years from now and be like, this was the season that the SEC really just established a foothold of dominance in basketball, because of how good the conference is. Just SEC conference play was awesome. Both Auburn-Bama games were great. Both had great finishes. Both great wins on the road. Some of those Florida wins they had during the regular season. The SEC tournament was awesome. The Final Four of the SEC tournament is, like, as far as conference tournament goes, that was, like, probably the best, highest level of conference tournament basketball you'll see was the Final Four of the SEC tournament. And yeah, Florida winning both. But yeah, I think this season, people will probably look back on years from now and be like, yeah, that was the year the SEC really, really separated themselves from the rest of the country when it comes to college basketball here. And I don't know if you guys saw, Bucky was introduced today at A&M with some very cringe yell leaders.
What a shift to go from Buzz Williams to Bucky McMillan. That, like, what a 180 in style.
Yeah. Their basketball on the court, there's a big difference, but they have the same personality on the court, like coaching personality.
Yeah.
Bucky McMillan's always on the court. Like, he's always standing on the court for no reason.
Bucky McMillan was coaching high school basketball in Mountain Brook 5 years ago.
And now he's the coach at A&M, which is crazy. I think it's a good hire by A&M, but that's certainly a culture shift if there ever has been one.
When A&M gets going, those Bucky McMillan Nate Oates matchups are going to be out of control.
The Bucky McMillan Dennis Gates matchups will be like there'll be a few that are just really high level. So also lost in the portal stuff. Trayson Eaglestaff, who we've talked about before on here, committed to South Carolina. Not sure what he was offered there, and I don't quite think it was maybe the best fit, but he'll probably, threaten to lead college basketball in scoring next year, I would imagine, because he's going to get a ton of shots at South Carolina, be in a ton of big games there. So that'll be fun, if nothing else.
I think, we're just talking about, like, best stories of the year, and I think, like, obviously, like, one of the memories, like, or two things this year that stick out that I think people are going to remember this year for a lot of time is, first, like, the insane, like, coaching love triangle square that was set off by Andy Enfield going to SMU, and then Musk going to USC, and then Cal going to Arkansas, and Mark Pope going to Kentucky, and then Kevin Young going to BYU. Like that was one. I mean, I don't. Maybe we'll see something like that again this offseason. Who knows? Probably not. But like, but really, other than Musk, like the success that all three of those guys had in their first year at their new school, obviously, like the turnaround Cal and Arkansas had, and then like the awesome year one Mark Pope had, and like really like Kentucky just fully embracing him and falling in love with Mark Pope there, and then Kevin Young like having a great year at BYU and landing AJ DeBansta in the middle of the season, like really successful year ones for those guys. And then another one, just story for the season to remember is just like Rick Pitino and the St. John's Revival, just completely like Undertaker style, like taking that program back from the dead in year two to win an outright Big East title, a Big East tournament title. He gets a Mickey Mouse undeserved National Coach of the Year, but got it regardless. Like just the complete revival there from Rick Pitino and St. John's, and that's one that certainly people will look back on this year and remember.
For me, I'll remember the Final Four matchups. I think both of those were the great games, that and the national championship. And I'll remember Walter Clayton Jr. As well as Braden Smith. Two insane guard performances on the year. So.
Yeah, I think you also have to factor in Player of the Year race was really good. It's probably the best Player of the Year race we've had, and I don't really know how long. It's been quite a while. Probably, over the years there have been some close ones, but this year was too. It's rare that they're on some of the best teams in the country. It's not like Luka Garza dragging Iowa or something to being Player of the Year. And yeah, this year was a lot of fun seeing those two, Cooper Flagg and I, go back and forth for Player of the Year. And just the level of Ken Palm dominance from some of these teams that, as high level as some of those teams were playing in the Final Four. That'll probably be one to remember. There were six.
There will never be another
with
year
a 30 net rating. Yeah, there were 6 teams in the country this year with a net rating over 30, which is crazy. I mean, that never happens.
I said earlier when I was talking to somebody at work, like, if you just look at the numbers and the metrics, like, for Auburn, like, in particular, like, for my team, like, if any other year, like, Auburn probably wins the national championship. Like, that was a national championship level team, and any other year, like, that's the best team in the nation that probably runs it to the national championship. And Auburn was, like, extremely, really, really great. And unfortunately, there were 3 teams that were really, really, really great ahead of Auburn. But, like, any other year, and it's like, it's disappointing to look back on that. It's like, if we had this kind of year any other year, you probably get a national championship out of it. Because, like, most of the time, like, when you see a team this good, like, if you look at teams on that top 10 list at KenPom, like, most of those teams have won national championships or at least gotten there. And it's just like the year Auburn has a historically great year and, like, the best year in program history. Well, like, it was awesome, but, like, there were 3 teams, like, that happened in the same year, just this anomaly of a year that were even more incredible than Auburn was. And it's like, and there's an amount of pride in that too, where it takes away from the sting of losing in the Final Four. It's just like you just tip your cap and you're like, damn, like, this was a historically great team and it was just a historically great year where unfortunately, like, they went down to the Final Four with 3 other historically great teams, and the other ones were just a little bit better than them. But like, you will never, like, and I feel good saying that, see a year with 4 teams this great again. Like, the level, any of these 4 teams in any other year probably walk to a net. Like, UConn is, for example, like Duke, Houston, and Florida have better net ratings at KenPom than last year's UConn team. And last year's UConn team walked to a national championship. Like, so any other year, like any of these four teams are probably winning a national championship. And you just happen to like have this melting pot of just four outstanding teams together in 1 year.
Yeah, it's a cool dynamic how that all worked there, and yeah, just the top 8 teams on KenPom themselves. They have a 28 net rating or higher, and one of them, Gonzaga, was an 8 seed in the tournament, which is a joke. And like, yeah, it's crazy how that works, and it makes for really high level basketball. So it's almost like, we have this discussion a lot. Like, you have 2023 when UConn won. That was a great UConn team. On paper, it was not as much like through the metrics per se. And that year, that was a toss up. Like, anyone could have won that year. UConn won as a 4 seed, but the rest of the Final Four, Miami, FAU, San Diego State. Those tournaments are arguably, depending on who you talk to, more fun than what we just saw in some people's minds. But yeah, I guess, stories for next year, that, is next year going to be one of those years where it's, 4 or 5 great teams battling it out the whole season? Or is it going to be one of those, like, we truly have no idea? Like, the gap between the best team and the 15th best team is not like shockingly huge kind of thing. So yeah, that would be one thing to watch there.
Yeah, just like the level, like it's definitely not going to be replicated, like the level of play you saw from those four teams this year. Like I feel good saying that you will never see four teams like this dominant and this great. And it's like you look at KenPom, it's like I don't even like I haven't looked at that top 10 list like today, but like are there even two teams from the same year on that list? Other than, and then you have four this year in the top 10 of all since 1996 in the KenPom era. It's insane. It doesn't even it feels ridiculous that you literally have four of the greatest teams, four of the top 10 teams of the KenPom era, like all in 1 year. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Gonzaga Baylor year, those two teams were basically like on a collision course for the title, and those two teams were like all time great metric wise and just on the floor. They were incredible. No one else was touching them. 2015, that was the year Duke beat Wisconsin in the title. That was like, until this year, the highest rated KenPom offense of all time. That Frank Kaminsky Wisconsin team. That was the year Kentucky went undefeated. So they, probably were the best team. Best team did not win that year. But that year there were 6 teams on KenPom who had an over 30 net rating, which was similar to this year. So that's probably the closest year in terms of how that all happened that we have to go on. And net rating is not the end all be all for like all time great status per se. But it's just kind of relative to that season almost. But it does say quite a bit about how strong those teams were this year. That's how good they were. Like, just Duke was, as we've talked about on here, the highest rated KenPom offense of all time, and they did not win. And like, they were held to one bucket the final like 10 minutes of their Final Four game. So yeah, it says a lot about level of talent, the level of teams who were playing this year. So it made for a really good season, really fun to watch. But it definitely also makes, like, now I feel like an idiot knowing what I know now, being like, why did I ever not have one of these teams making the Final Four? Like, what was I thinking? Like, it's like, why didn't I have that? The only one I didn't have was Houston, because I thought, like an idiot, Gonzaga or Tennessee would beat them. But yeah, just those teams were just buzzsaws all the way through. So yeah, it's a Final Four that I don't think anyone can be dissatisfied with. Like, rarely you see a Final Four that like people are upset with. This one, it's impossible to find like a flaw with how this Final Four was.
Of those 4 1 seeds too, it's like going in like I guess Houston against Purdue, but I was about to say like Florida is really the one who got pushed and like almost didn't make it. Versus those other teams like where Florida had 2 games really against UConn and against Texas Tech that they like could have, would have, should have lost. Like however you look at it, and they pulled it out of the bag, and then it's like Houston got pushed a little bit against Gonzaga and pushed versus Purdue, but like, but as far as like Auburn and Duke, then like I don't think there was. I mean, I guess Auburn got pushed a little bit against Michigan, but like they took that game over. Like it was pretty settled after Auburn.
There
went
was
on that
never a
run.
doubt with that.
Yeah.
And this year, like it was kind of similar if you go back to 2008 when it was all 4 the 1 seeds. Florida was the 4th 1 seed this year. Kansas was the 4th 1 seed in 2008. And Kansas was pushed more than those other 1 seeds were before the Final Four. I mean, Kansas almost got beat by Steph Curry and Davidson on a buzzer beater in the Elite Eight. And they were pushed before that and ended up winning the title against Memphis in overtime. So, yeah, interesting parallels from that season, which was also in the Final Four with San Antonio. So, yeah, that was there's some cool parallels from both those seasons there where all the 1 seeds made the Final Four.
Another parallel from that season and that Final Four, like I mentioned it yesterday, was like the similarities between Memphis's collapse in the national championship and Duke's collapse in the national semifinal against Houston. Like I felt like a lot of those were or I felt like both of those were kind of like similar, like insane collapses, like choke jobs down the stretch that happened in those games.
Yeah, they were pretty similar. Unfortunately, I think Duke's was ultimately worse because it's not as if like Memphis had trouble inbounding the ball. It's just like none of you can make your free throws. Like Derrick Rose, Chris Douglas Roberts, Antonio Anderson, Robert Dozier. That was a great team. But yeah, they sadly just could not make their free throws, and it bit them at the worst possible time. They were 329th that year in free throw shooting, and they paid for it badly in the national championship game.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like we've kind of done the season recap and haven't even mentioned Cooper Flagg's name yet, but I'm sure he's going to go on and be an absolute superstar in the NBA. And like, even as somebody for me, like I don't like Duke. I've never liked Duke. Definitely don't have the same amount of hate for them as I did when Coach K was there. But like, it was an absolute pleasure watching Cooper Flagg play college basketball this year. And like he was a fun guy to watch play, and it's like it's not often you see a guy come into college who's going to be the number 1 pick, who's the top freshman with as much hype as Cooper Flagg had, and like actually deliver and like win the National Player of the Year and get his team to the Final Four, and like could have very easily won a national championship. It's like for him to come in with all that hype and expectation and deliver on it. It's a very, very fun story this year, even if you don't like Duke, to see him actually like live up to that hype, because it's not often you see guys come in with that level of expectation who are going to be the number 1 pick and actually like really live up to it like that. It's definitely like probably the best one and done for like since Carmelo Anthony. Like that probably has to be the last one. I don't.
Anthony Davis, won Kentucky that national championship his year. He was National Player of the Year and won that title for them. So that was probably like if you want to give Jahlil Okafor and Tyus Jones credit for the Duke one they won in 2015.
But not like Okafor and Tyus Jones definitely didn't come in with the hype and that Cooper Flagg did, where he's
sure
like
not for an individual player.
Yeah.
yes, for an individual player, they 100% did not. And like Zion Williamson, like did not come in with the hype of Cooper Flag, but he like certainly developed into the biggest star in college basketball when he was there. So yeah, I mean, for Cooper Flag to one reclassify, like he should by his age be a senior in high school this year. For him to be basically the consensus top to bottom best basketball player in college basketball this year, that's unbelievably impressive on his end, and um, I think he'll have a really nice NBA career. Huge Celtics fan. Cooper Flag models his game after Jason Tatum, he says. So be ready for his free agency in 2030. But yeah, there are a lot of interesting, unique fits for him when he gets to the NBA. I kind of hope the Jazz win the lottery because I think he with Markkinen and Walker Kessler would be really fun.
Shout
But
out.
yeah, there you go. But
Hey, and
yeah,
fucking Filipowski.
yeah, yeah, really. Can't forget about him. But yeah, Cooper Flag is that level. That you watch him in college and see why a lot of those teams are tanking, and he has just a lot of great skills that translate to the NBA game. He can shoot, pass, defend, really, really high level defensive player. That's probably the number one thing that jumps off the screen when you watch him. He just is that good of a defender, and he can seriously pass. So those are two areas I didn't expect from him. So it's almost like he has a lot of like Kawhi Leonard sort of traits. He's not like a great individual one-on-one scorer, which I'm interested to see how he creates offense in the NBA. But credit to him. He answered every bit of expectation that was put on his shoulders when he got to Duke. I know that Duke's going to have probably three players taken in the top 10. But I do think, 5-10 years from now, people are, going to look at that as Cooper Flag's Duke team, not, anyone else's there. So, give him a lot of credit. He going to Duke changed the sport on his head. Like he was, going to go to Duke or UConn and chose Duke and, ultimately made the right decision for him. And yeah, it worked. He's like I would say he is like already a star in the NBA before getting there. Like he's already on New Balance commercials, and like more people probably know who Cooper Flag is than know who, I don't know, take your pick of like any mid-level NBA star player. They more people probably know Cooper Flag than know Jamal Murray or know like Donovan Mitchell maybe. So yeah, give him a lot of credit for answering the bell for all those expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way the NBA is going to let the Wizards get the number one pick, right? They're just going to be like, this is not happening.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's because they have like probably not. No, probably not. I don't see it.
There's no
I,
way.
like
Are they really just going to let him go to Washington and waste away?
yeah, I do not think it would be there. Like I think the favorites should be Utah and the Pelicans. I would assume would
You
be.
know who's going to get it? What would be? It's going to be the Sixers.
I don't think they would get it. I don't think their odds are there, but I could totally see like I don't know. I really like the Spurs. Like
It's
The
going to be
Heat.
the Jazz or the Spurs, I bet.
The Heat.
100%.
the Raptors who have done a terrible job of tanking. They are playing way too hard for a tanking team right now.
Dude, the
But
Wizards are too. They got passed by the Jazz for
yeah,
the worst team.
yeah, that's outrageous.
I think for the NBA, it's like the best possible outcomes for I'd say what they would be hoping for are probably the Sixers, the Heat, or the Spurs. I feel like those, like, of the teams that could realistically get it, like, those would probably
I think the
be
Sixers would be a shit show for him only because like he couldn't be the star of the Sixers. So like I think they want him to go somewhere where he could be the face of the team. And like if he could
Wait,
be the face of like the Jazz, the Wizards, the Hornets, the Pelicans.
but
Um,
I think the Heat would be the one because, like, that's a real organization at least. So it's like he can go there
yeah,
and be the
so the
star.
Heat
Like,
are credible, and I think that Pat Riley, conspiracy wise, could throw his hands up and be like, I just had to trade Jimmy Butler because he's a child and refused to play for me. So like you will give me like something in return for this because they really didn't get anything back
if
from the Warriors in that trade.
if he went to the Pelicans too, as you mentioned, like you have the connection with him and Zion there
Yeah.
too. Like that would be pretty cool. If
Yeah, the
Zion
Zion
could ever
connection would
get
be
his shit
cool.
together, but
Yeah, maybe he could get Zion on the court. That would be step one of that. I've always thought that like the Mavericks as well, like the NBA could feel bad for Dallas and be like, here, you lost Luca. We'll throw you this guy. So, but it's still like it wouldn't be, like Dylan Harper's still a really good consolation for someone. Um, Same with Ace Bailey, VJ Combe, and yeah, I don't know, like some of those other guys. I don't, like Jeremiah Fears is going to take years to probably develop, and Trey Johnson, he's another one. He's a big guard, but certainly not to the same level. And like people,
Yakachunas.
Yaka Jonas is a
Right.
really, really good player. But I just am not like shooting. Like he is not the best 3-point shooter, so not really sure where that takes him. And if Derek Queen undergoes some like Sammy Sosa, Michael Jackson skin alteration where he is white and changes his name, like what Kevin Willard said, you're white and European, he'd be the first pick. But no, yeah,
I'm
Derek
excited
Queen will be a
about the
lottery
draft
pick.
I'm excited about the draft this year though, because what's fun to me about the draft is it's like like us as college basketball fans, all three of us probably appreciate the fact that it's like this draft is really like it's college players this year. It's like it's
Mhm.
guys we watch play. It's not like half the first round's going to be like foreigners that like we've never heard of before draft night. Like we get to really see a draft that's going to be comprised of guys we actually got to watch play. Like
No Tijan Saluda or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's on the.
I mean, thank God for NIL because then, like, we had that couple years where guys were going to the fucking G League. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Jalen Green still should have been at Auburn if the
Yeah.
G League didn't. Like, Jalen Green was like he said it on podcast himself. Like, he was going to commit to Auburn, and the G League, like the night before he committed, offered him $500,000 to come play in the G League. So he chose the G League over Auburn,
Which is like what the ninth man is probably making like for Auburn today. Like $500,000 is nothing now, but yeah, that the other thing that I wonder if there's a franchise that like Cooper Flag would refuse to go to and like just strong arm a team into not taking him, or is there a team that he would go back to Duke for?
He
Um,
he he already came out. I think he did an interview and he said like I would be honored to play with for any team in the NBA
which he
that
seems
wanted to
like
take me.
Cooper
Like
Flag's a good dude. Like he seems like a good dude and not
he really
someone
is.
who's
It's like
yeah.
with the history of Duke, you just felt like he was a guy you were just gonna end up hating. And it's like is he the most likable like star to ever come out of Duke? Like, is there anybody who's like, I hate Cooper Flag? Like, he really is like a great dude. Like, honestly, I felt the same way about Zion Williamson. Like, I think Zion was a great guy too, and like I was always a fan of his. And it's like, but I mean, you still had the Coach K factor there to like where Coach K did everything in his power to make Zion unlikable.
Yeah.
And it's like you didn't have that for Cooper Flag, and it's like I don't know. It's a new era for Duke. It's not as fun like for me, like especially now, like with my college basketball fandom, where it's like I don't hate Duke and Kentucky the same way I used to. Like now, both of those guys actually have like really good, likable, respectable guys running the program, and it's like damn, like I can't muster up the hate for these guys, these programs anymore that I've just grown up despising.
Yeah, it's Duke's had a good recent run of players, and yeah, I don't think anyone was like, gosh, I hate Jahlil Okafor, I hate Tyus Jones or Jason Tatum, Marvin Bagley, Paolo Banchero, those types of players. Yeah, Grayson
Well, you
Allen
still had
certainly,
Coach K there.
yes, but he was still the overarching. Now, granted, they were just renting those players. It wasn't as if in the early 2000s where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do another year of JJ Redick and or Shane Battier or Grant Hill, that
Bryson
kind of
Allen,
thing. Yeah, so yeah, it's
Phil
different.
Palsky,
Kyle Singler. Yeah, there were some in there who you just kind of were bred to hate type of thing.
the Lopez.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who just is not a Cooper Flag fan.
I was gonna say the Lopez brothers,
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that'll all be fun to watch, and then I guess last thing is we'll see how the offseason goes, because I am very interested in some of these schools to see to my knowledge, Kevin Willard still hasn't made I'm still waiting for him to make some big moves in the portal, but he went to Nova for that giant bag they gave him to spend. So very curious to see how he ends up navigating that.
Yeah, that is I don't know of any Nova's not really linked with anyone right now, or I don't know what their portal activity will be usually. But yeah, they certainly have the funds to attract talent. I still
Darian DeVries is just assembling the exciting whites.
Yeah.
In Indiana.
Darian DeVries, Indiana's going to be garbage next year.
I don't think they're going to be garbage, but they're going to be white.
I mean, Tucker's going to be playing, so they're going to have some talent.
DeVries is a good coach. Indiana will not be garbage, but no, there's been a lot of jokes.
I think they'll win 15 games or something like that.
15 games?
Yeah.
I don't know. DeVries won, he almost made the tournament. Should have made the tournament with West Virginia in year 1.
15 games.
And they didn't have Tucker playing. I think Tucker will probably be, potential. He'll probably have top 3 odds to be Big Ten Player of the Year next year.
Oh, we were talking about stories and from the season and stuff. Another thing I forgot to mention real quick is this was really probably the last year of the early season NTEs as we know them, because the players era is just completely upending those, which I hate that, because I love Maui, I love Atlantis, I love all those different events, and now it seems like the players era is basically just going to come in and scoop up all the great teams, and we're going to have a November NCAA tournament with the players era instead of the typical early season NTE structure. And it's I don't know how those tournaments Maui and Atlantis survive as they're currently structured now, with how players era is doing this, where they're coming and giving the programs money to come play, and giving a pot of money for the players to win if they win those tournaments. So I am concerned for that. I'm gonna hate if we get to a day where there's no Maui, there's no Atlantis, but it seems like that's where we're heading, where I believe I think 16 teams are going to be in the players era next year, and then it's going to 32 in the year after that. So it seems like the players era is really killing those early season NTEs. I don't know if you guys feel differently about that, but
I don't think some of them really I think Maui's the only one that has actual gravitas. I do not think people will really if the battle for Atlantis is no longer a thing. I don't think many people will be well, what am I going to watch on CBS Sports Network now at 9 p.m.? on a Tuesday night here or something. Like, I don't know. I don't think too many people will, like, for Maui, it's cool because that's been a really long-standing tournament, has good tradition. It's good for the local economy in Hawaii, and but I don't think you can say the same about most of these other preseason tournaments. If that means that there are more teams who are scheduling home and homes with each other, or the players era actually becomes like you can actually fill out a bracket for the players era that starts the
That's what's
season.
going to happen.
And I think that's a good thing for the sport. I think that'll get people into college basketball sooner. I think it'll get them to watch. I think that's a tournament that the players will obviously play hard in. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. I don't like Maui. Yeah, I want Maui to stay, but I don't really like Atlantis is cool, but it's not as if like I don't know, like it it is what it is. It's a preseason tournament, and or it's basically preseason, but yeah, it's if it means that we're gonna get more home and homes or more crossover games, I'm here for that. So yeah, I have no issue with that if the players era becomes a really big thing, because then that's something that it's more meaningful basketball, and yeah, I think that matters for the sport.
Jacob, you got anything on that, the NTEs or any of that?
Not really.
Well,
Yeah.
what did you gonna say?
I said, I mean, I hope Maui stays around because, I mean, that'd be a shame. That'd be a real disappointment if Maui went away.
Yeah, I mean, and you've already seen a lot of these programs, like Dan, after they had their disaster this year, it's like never again, not doing the 3 games in 3 days again, and like that Maui as it's currently structured, like it's done, and that's not like, and I do there is some pride in Auburn, like we did kind of win the last Maui Invitational, like that's really Maui as we know it, because it's that event's going to have to restructure a lot of how they do things to stay around. So, definitely one of the highlights of the season for Auburn was winning that Maui field, like, and how stacked it was, and that was a fun run there. But yeah, we're just talking about like teams building rosters in the off season. Like, any last like teams that you're keeping your eye on this offseason, like how they're going to spend their money, what they're doing in the portal, kind of like what programs are you zeroing in on to see how they handle things? Either of you, if you have one on your mind in particular.
We'll see. We'll see how Louisville does with their additions. I think they have been the biggest spender in the portal so far.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are a few teams that need to rebuild completely. Creighton, they're a team that they lose quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested to see, Kansas, how they respond there.
Tennessee's already started doing it.
Yeah, Tennessee's another team. North Carolina, Illinois, they do not really have much of a team coming back.
Maryland has nobody. He brought Phelps with him from A&M.
Maryland's another one. Year one of Sean Miller. No idea what that's going to look like for Texas. They don't have much of a team.
They'll have Cam Heidi.
Yeah, that's about it for him there. Texas Tech is another team besides Christian Anderson that they lose basically their entire team. Texas Tech had a really, really good portal year last year. Their Elite Eight team was comprised basically of entirely guys they got through that portal cycle. So really, besides Christian Anderson, that's all they have on the books returning now. So
this year, like the teams we saw have success this year too, it's like it's a big lesson in the portal where it's like the portal is just not about like how much like just
money
going
you
out
have.
and signing
Yeah,
like you have to get guys that fit together,
program
that fit
guys.
the system. Like
good program guys.
I'm gonna make an Auburn reference, like prime example, like but it's like the first one that comes to mind is like when Auburn signed Chaney Johnson, like all the Alabama fans like, You signed a D2. He sucks. And like
That-
Chaney Johnson's been an awesome player for Auburn. Like it's not about just going out and getting the biggest name from the
yeah,
biggest school you can get. Like you got to
that
get guys that fit together. Like
that's
Kansas has been a flop, and they're a prime example of
Yeah.
it going the wrong way.
I know we as a Purdue fan, we experienced the same thing last year with Lance Jones. He may have not had the flashiest stats, but he became a legend for Purdue, like a Purdue legend. Hit one of the biggest shots in program history, and he was a good program guy, good, leader, um, for some younger guards on the roster that needed it.
Yeah.
So
They
you gotta find guys that are leaders and not just guys chasing a bag.
Yeah, some teams have done a much better job of that than others. I mean, Gonzaga is going to have to rebuild their roster as well. They lose a good amount.
Mhm.
But look
Just
at Florida. Look at the
yeah,
team that just won the national championship. There's no 5 stars on that whole
yeah,
team. I'm like,
Top 100 players even.
yeah. I mean, and they're going to have to replace a good amount. They're going to be waiting on the Condon decision because he's like a fringe NBA first rounder. I would come back if I were him. But yeah, he's someone. Florida's been really good in their portal. Todd Golden's usually done a really good job of building a team there. Michigan State, same kind of thing. They're going to have to rebuild. Arizona loses a good amount, but they have like a very popular, like well-known recruiting class coming in. Koa Pete's like the head of it. So they're going to have to replace a lot of the Caleb Love stuff. And honestly, like I really like Kevin Young as a coach, as we talked about, and I think they have a pretty challenging portal ahead of them because they have to surround Demansa with talent. They're going to have to like bring in more than the existing talent because they already have Richie Saunders coming back, and I think they're going to be losing a couple more. But Igor Demon is going to be one that, like, if he comes back, that's a huge deal for them. But if they surround Demansa with enough talent there, that could be a really, really dangerous BYU team next year. So yeah, between them, Kansas, can we finally get a good portal class at Kansas? Build a real team that
have they
actually
hired a
plays.
GM yet?
Not that I know of. I haven't been following that one very closely. They got Trey White from Illinois already, and then they got Jaden Dawson from Loyola Chicago. So those are two transfers that are not like flashy, but they fit in really well with the kind of basketball that Kansas wants to play. Another one they got, Badung is going to stay, so that was a huge.
Oh, that was a
That was
heartbreaker
yeah,
because
that
all
was
the smoke
huge
was.
news.
That's 2 years in a row. Flory has just broken Auburn's heart.
Yeah,
Got balloons for that. Yeah, because like last year, like Auburn finished second and he went to Kansas, and then this year, like all the smoke was saying he's going to Auburn, and then he decides to go back to Kansas. That guy's no longer welcome here. I don't care if he wants to come here in the future or not. He's broken our heart. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
yeah.
But
Arkansas has some really good recruiting class coming in. They got some, most of their guys who were contributors. Like DJ Wagner is going to be back. Brazil's going to be back. Carter Knox is going to be back. And then they add Malik Thomas and Akaf, who are both like unbelievably good. So they're going to have like probably some of the best guards in college basketball next year. They're just going to have a portal class that surrounds, accommodates the talent that they already have.
I think all three of our teams have already made great additions in the portal. Like I
I,
think we all three like Auburn got Keyshawn Hall from Central Florida, the leading scorer in the Big 12. Purdue got Oscar Clough, and UConn got
I,
Silas Demery. So like I think
Yeah.
we all three of us already have like exciting
just,
portal additions on our respective teams.
Yeah,
I do
UConn
know.
got Solo Ball to come back as well, and now they're going to wait on the decision from Alex Caravan on whether he's going to go to the NBA or come back for his senior year.
I do know on Purdue's front too. Apparently, we're in the running for two European guys that are NBA prospects, like pros that are playing overseas right now.
And obviously, I mean, we have got to watch out. Where will AJ Store sign?
Yeah.
I want to see, like, this is going to be his 8th different basketball team in 8 years.
Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
AJ Store will be playing for Georgetown next year.
Oh, there you go. I could see that. Yeah, he's someone just like, guy just has no hesitation. Good on him, though. I hope he finds somewhere for him that fits.
Dude, I wish Bryce Hopkins went to Georgetown, by the way, because, like, I guess they finished second for him. God, like, can you imagine Bryce Hopkins and Ed Cooley rolling into Providence next year?
Yeah, that would be a bloodbath. But that's a good get for St. John's. If they can keep him healthy, he'll really help them. And I don't know if you guys saw, like, R.J. Lewis did an interview where he, like, was not happy that Rick Pitino, like, didn't have his back or stand up for him by keeping him in the game against Arkansas.
I agree with Lewis there, though. We talked about that after that game happened.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't understand Patino in that moment. Like play well. Like I said, when they're like, we don't need to rehash that whole discussion, but, like, play with the guys that got you there.
Yeah, Rick certainly apparently turned R.J. Lewis off quite a bit from that, and
Has
now
he committed anywhere yet?
No, I don't think so.
I would love to see him on the Plains. I don't know if we're in the running for him or not, but I would.
He needs to get in the gym immediately and get like 1,000 threes off a day or something. Like, develop a 3-point shot, because Kadari Richmond would probably be a lottery pick if he shot threes at like a 35% clip or anywhere close. But instead, he's going to be like fringe, like last few picks probably.
I think for some stuff I was reading, by the way, on the Auburn, like, I think Auburn might be getting ready to sue to try to get Chaney Johnson another year.
Oh, really?
The JUCO thing. So, because, like, he's a JUCO, but he used a COVID year, so they said he's not eligible to get another year. But then there's some players, and like some football players and basketball players, who have sued and gotten injunctions against that. And I think Auburn might be preparing to do that for Chaney Johnson. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. And, like, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we were all talking about our teams next year, and like UConn and Purdue are in great shape, and I think Auburn should be in good shape too, as long as Todd Pettiford and Chad Baker-Mazara both come back. Those are kind of the two big decisions Auburn's waiting on, where Todd's testing the NBA, and then Chad's just got to decide if he wants to come back and play one more year of college ball or not. So, but I mean, I think UConn and Purdue are both in great shape for next year, and I think Auburn will be right there if Pettiford and Chad Baker-Mazara are both back.
What would Chad Baker-Mazara do if he didn't go back to Auburn? Like, is there I don't see an NBA path for him right now, just given his age alone. But yeah, like, if you're him, I have no idea why you would not go back to Auburn.
And I'm guessing Chad, like, I don't know him personally, but, like, I know he's, like, very prideful of being from the Dominican and everything. So, like, you ask where, I'm sure he's going to go play pro ball in the Dominican when he's done at Auburn. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route he took, because, he's very proud of where he's from and his heritage, and I'm sure he would love to go there and play basketball.
It's funny you mentioned that. ETSU a few years back had a player who was on the 2020 team, Jerome Rodriguez. He had initially declared he was going to go pro, and then he came back for that 2020 team that won 30 games. So, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
you
I don't know what he would
go
do
overseas.
He should I think he should go back to Auburn. I don't know why he wouldn't. His NIL money is probably going to be just as much as one of those overseas contracts probably would be. So
Same with Pettiford. It's like I think Pettiford will get more NIL at Auburn than he would probably on a two-way in the NBA. And it's
yeah,
like,
and he will be a G League player his first year for sure. Like not to disrespect him, or a lot of these like first round players will be in the G League year one. So I always kind of am like, why would you want that instead of like another year where the Auburn offense now belongs to him if he goes back. So
yeah, it'll be
it
him
would,
and Abdul Bashir in the backcourt, and with
yeah,
Chad Baker Mazzara. Like I'd like if both of those guys come back, I think Auburn's going to be in really good shape to run it. As long as like we're going to have to get a couple big men in the portal, that'll be Auburn's
yeah,
next big target. But like with if it's Tahad, Abdul Bashir, Chad, Keyshawn Hall, and then whatever big men in the portal, like I think like there's no reason Auburn won't be a contender in the SEC again next year, as long as like I said, Chad and Tahad are the big two. If those two
yeah,
don't come back, Auburn might be in trouble next year. But if those two are back, I think Auburn's going to be in really good shape next year.
yeah, makes sense.
Jacob, I know Jacob's excited about Purdue because like
Uh,
honestly, Purdue and UConn should both be preseason top 5 teams next year. So I know you guys are both probably bullish on your team's
bro,
outlooks for next year.
I'm like so excited. Like I'm ready to buy tickets to like freaking gazillion games next year.
We're gonna have to return the favor and
Yeah,
go to Indy with you
yeah,
next year
we're
to
gonna
see the
do that.
rematch.
I'm thinking of depending on when the Purdue Iowa State game, that may make that my Mackey game next year. And then I'm gonna, of course, I'm planning on if Purdue makes it, I'm gonna be in the Final Four in Indy. So
Well, I know in December, I believe the game. I'll probably ride up and just ride to Indy with you, like
mhm.
rather than make the drive all the way up there. We can have a fun podcast trip to Indy. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe Matt can come out to Indy and join us for that game. We can get the whole crew together for a game.
That would be fun. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, and Braden Smith should probably be the preseason National Player of the Year next year. Any
I,
objections to that?
I think he deserves it. He's gonna try to go for what's freaking Bobby Hurley's assist record.
yeah, yeah. If he
And
touches that, I mean, he'll be.
mhm.
It's hard to envision unless Debance is that good. If he is that like Cooper Flag type of impact player, yeah, I have no problem with like Braden Smith being the preseason favorite for that. It's usually rarely the preseason favorite, like, depending on the season ends up being that guy anyway. But yeah, Braden Smith is he'll be preseason All-American for sure.
And I
So
think Todd Pettiford will be in that mix too if he comes back. I don't think he'll be a favorite or the favorite or anything, but I think he'll definitely be like in the mix.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
Yeah, like you said, you guys are so me and Matt are both. I guess we're sweating it out similar, like you with Caravan and me with Pettiford. So we're both going to be watching the draft water with eagle eyes for the
No
next few
one
weeks.
should be sweating out who like if Michigan gets Yaxel, watch out. That guy, like, he's
Yeah, I'm
testing
worried
NBA
about
waters
him.
now. He is someone. Big Ten Player of the Year will be a really fun race next year. That'll be like Braden Smith, Yaxel, and Tucker. So that actually could be quite a bit of fun if Yaxel returns. But yeah, he is a force. Cannot say that enough about him. Just like his stat line at UAB is out of control. So he'll be a really, really good player for Michigan if he stays, of course.
I saw Jace Richardson entered today too, and he already made it clear he has no intentions of coming out of the draft.
Sure.
So.
And he'll, rightly so, he'll be probably a lottery guy if he goes. So makes sense on his end.
Have you guys like the last few weeks too? Like the whole like I feel like it always said maybe Cooper Flag will come back for another year. Like no, like he's not coming. Why are we even talking about that? Like
Well, the best part is like some of the NBA media is talking that way as well. Like, hey, let's have a first take segment. Should Cooper Flag return to Duke to avenge horrible Final Four losses? Like, really? Is that what you want? Is that what the NBA really wants? They want Cooper Flag to go back to school? Like, is that what we want? We're gonna headline our draft class with Dylan Harper instead? Like,
the Rutgers
I don't
guys
think
who
so.
didn't make the tournament.
Yeah, like I don't think that's what you want. So yeah, that no, I don't see if anyone's advising Cooper Flag. Like, yeah, he'll be 22 when he signs his first big NBA contract. Like, just yeah, like go be drafted. And it's not as if any of those teams are not going to be terrible again next year. Like, all these teams are going to be horrible. Like, outside of the Spurs, all those teams are going to be terrible. So like,
Yeah,
I don't see
like,
the Jazz or the Wizards like making it out of the lottery next year.
basketball decisions to come back are a lot different than football decisions to come back because like the NFL draft has so many positions. Like if you're a quarterback, if you stay another year, it's not like your draft stock's going to go down. Basketball, your stock could always just plummet out of nowhere.
Well, it's happened before with like football. Like Matt Barkley was once supposed to be the first pick in the draft, and then the next year he finds himself as like a fourth round pick. And
Jake
yeah,
Locker.
it's weird how that stuff works. But yeah, and it's very rare that there are like huge basketball turnarounds the same way you see like what the Commanders were able to do. So yeah, I mean, if Cooper Flag goes back to Duke, I couldn't imagine like it's still the usual suspects he's going to be planning to play for if he were to be drafted anyway. So yeah, I don't see any scenario I would be very interested to hear the rationale or explanation like for him coming back. I wouldn't like hate it per se, like as a fan of the sport, but yeah, like I don't know. He reclassified so he could be 18 his rookie NBA season. So
I think I already. I think I told William Luke I will eat human shit if Cooper Flag comes back to Duke. So so yeah, I feel pretty confident that that's not going to happen.
We'll follow that closely. Yeah.
Usually, if you're a lottery pick in the NBA, you go in the draft. You stay in the draft. Like I don't think there's been an instance.
It's pretty rare when it doesn't happen. Yeah.
The last like 20 years when that's
you go back usually to improve your stock, not to have it take a hit. So
one more story too for the offseason, just to discussion topic to bring up. Wonder what you guys think. And like any chance we see, like, because I mean, the chances are we're going to get at least one surprise coach retirement. Like it's happened a lot the last few years, and I think you have a group of guys. I think you have Kelvin Sampson, Tom Izzo, Rick Barnes, Mark Few, just a few of those names where like wouldn't be shocked. Like I'm not going to sit here and try to guess like which one. Even Bruce Pearl, and I don't think he will, but just another name to throw in the discussion though, who's like, but chances are we'll see like one of those guys at least surprise retire. Or are there any of those guys like more than another that you guys kind of have your ears perked up?
I think for me it would be Rick Barnes if I had to guess. Tennessee hasn't been too active in the portal, and Jacoby Gillespie was a layup. Like it was in motion before the season ended. Since he's local to Tennessee, he'll probably stay whoever the coach was. But I think Rick Barnes is just getting to that age. Like I don't think he's going to get a national title at this point.
I think for me, it would be Mark Few and Tom Izzo are the two I kind of have like because they're two guys who have just been vocal in their disdain for this iteration of college basketball, and now with like the revenue sharing stuff like becoming more prominent. I think Few and Tom Izzo are two I'm definitely have my eye on, where I wouldn't be completely shocked to see one of those two pull the plug.
The thing with that is both those guys, they talk that game, and then they in private they're offering freaking, like, Gonzaga offered Braden Smith like a massive deal last offseason, I believe, or the offseason before last year.
Izzo would be the one, I think, because
Mhm.
few I think all the coaches hate it. I think
Mhm.
all the coaches will tell you that they hate how that stuff is.
Mhm.
But I do think that like few has, as you said, has played the portal game really well and has assembled a really good roster through the portal primarily. So I think he at minimum is willing to, play the game of the transfer portal. And Gonzaga is really the only game in town, like on the West Coast and in the Pacific Northwest. Like UCLA got Donovan Dent, but a lot of those schools in California are not very active. Oregon's not particularly active. So it's really
St.
like
Mary's.
Gonzaga. Yeah, like Gonzaga and Arizona are the two West West Coast brands that kind of are the primary transfer destinations.
Ooh, SC.
Yeah, they're in there as well. Yeah,
Uh,
but
I think
yeah, like St. Mary's doesn't do it. Like it's kind of weird how that stuff works. Like Washington is now in the Big Ten. They're getting more money, but they don't really invest any resources in that stuff. So yeah, I would say few like at least will do it. But Izzo has always been like resistant to that stuff. He's recruited decently well, but yeah, the portal just is not where he's comfortable, and that's not his area of expertise. That's not the way he wants to build his teams, clearly. So I would not be surprised if he would, because he still like represents a lot of that old guard. Um, that's like Coach K, Roy Williams, Bill Self, that kind of group. But yeah,
Tino.
I could, yeah, Patino and Cal. I could definitely see Izzo being like, yeah, like, what Tom Izzo has nothing remaining to prove. Like, I'm sure Few still really wants to win a national championship. But yeah, Izzo's already done everything. So I could see him, I don't think he will, but I could see him being the first of that group to be like, yeah, seen enough here.
I do
So
think I could see Izzo holding out for way too long, kind of like Jim Boeheim and Jim Larinaga in Miami, just kind of treading water until he's forced to step down. I feel like that's kind of that's a Tom Izzo thing to do.
yeah, he's a lifetime coach, so I could
Mhm.
see him just
Holding on.
sticking around. I hope he doesn't retire, and I hope Few doesn't retire either. But yeah, Izzo's the one I could see. I wouldn't be surprised by any of them, honestly. But
I would be
I
surprised if Kelvin retired after that
I would be
national
surprised if Kelvin
championship.
did. Kelvin's not in that because, as we've talked about before on here, like he left a lot of years, like where he wasn't coaching because he, had the Indiana stuff.
He was in the NBA during that
Yeah,
time with
and like Houston is
Popovich.
his thing. Um, so I could, I he's probably gonna be at Houston for as long as he can be, and yeah, I don't foresee him getting out of there anytime soon. I could see like Dana Altman at Oregon has been there for a while now, and um, Oregon just has like a very interesting run of recent teams. They've always been like good, not great. They've been competitive, but not like nationally competitive. He's been coaching a really long while. But yeah, with the NIL resources there, I can't believe that they can't build a better team there than what they have recently. So yeah, interested to see what they do. And like Mick Cronin and Muss both, like eventually that's going to hit a head where like UCLA should have a really good team next year. They've recruited really well. the guys they're bringing back should help, and then they got Donovan Dent in the portal. But yeah, between him and Muss, I do not know. Those jobs do not seem as desirable as what they did before because of the Big Ten stuff and the travel stuff. So, be interested to see how that progresses going forward. And I don't think there will be, like we've talked about other openings. Like I don't know of any other jobs that'll be open coming forward here. But if they did, like is it, like there's always a coach, like whether it be like when Chris Peterson was at Boise State, it was always like anytime a job opened, everyone was like, "Oh, Chris Peterson's definitely like, why doesn't the school hire Chris Peterson?" Like, I feel like Chris Beard's definitely moving into that territory now at Ole Miss, where like if any job opens up in the future, it's going to be like, why don't they hire Chris Beard? Like, he will be the first list or the first name that everyone will probably rattle off in their heads and like that they think should be hired for that whatever job opening that is.
I mean, this
so,
still
like,
happens with Bruce Pearl.
Yeah.
Like, every time there's a job, they're like, oh, what about Bruce Pearl? Like, because
So,
people
like,
still can't accept Auburn has a good basketball program now.
That
yeah,
was
if
Indiana's.
Michigan State were to open tomorrow, if Izzo did retire, like, I feel like people would be like, oh, Chris Beard, easy choice. Get him to Michigan State. However, with the issues at Michigan State in the past, I don't see them as being in the Chris Beard business potentially. But yeah, I think that would be, they would like suggest his name immediately.
Grant McCasland is one that would definitely come up for that.
Yeah.
Like,
For sure.
Yeah, I think how the Bucks looking for next year, Jacob?
I have no clue yet. Still waiting for the portal. Pick up portal pieces.
Yeah. SoCon Towns, like, hey, that's the best mid-major conference, man, is the SoCon. All those, no other mid-major invests resources into their basketball more than them. So I assume they'll have some decent teams.
Yeah. What are you saying, Jacob?
Oh, I was just saying we bring back a lot of the younger talent we have, but just kind of the conference will look different next year. I'd say right now the top team would be Furman, if I had to guess, going into next year.
That's another one. I can't believe that Bob Ritchie still has that job, that no one has hired him yet.
I honestly think NC State should have gone with him over Will Wade.
What?
I think
Well,
Will
Bob
Wade's
Ritchie's a
going to
good
burn
coach.
out.
Like, yeah,
Over
NC
Will
State.
Wade?
In my
I
opinion.
probably would have hired Will Wade if I were them. But Bob Ritchie still is like I think a really, really good basketball coach, and I do not know how he's still at Furman. But yeah, like if the South Carolina job opened up, if South Carolina had another season, how they just had, I could see him getting that job maybe.
Can we talk about how Will Wade, like that, the build of that man? Like, did you see that video of him like walking down the street with the polo on?
Yes.
He's built like Elon Musk.
What? It's like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, stick with the sweatsuit, Will. Like, oh, there's some talk about Bob Huggins going to Cleveland State.
Oh,
I know
I'm so here for it.
He was rumored for McNeese State before they hired the guy.
We need Huggy Bear back in college basketball.
Did you see
the stool?
The McNeese coach, the new McNeese coach? It looked like they were filming a hostage video when he was introduced.
Same with there were a few of them that like Willard had that as well. When he had his Nova introduction, they were like, "Dude, what? Do you look comfortable anywhere? Like, what is your problem?"
And he's probably expecting Scott Van Pelt to like come up behind him with a sword or something. Like, did you guys listen to the his pod? Like, just like teeing off on Willard.
Oh yeah, huge fan of the SV pod with him and Stanford Steve, and like Scott's usually like pretty neutral on a lot of stuff, but whenever Maryland's involved, he just like that's where it gets very personal, and he correctly gave it to Willard. So I think he spoke for Maryland fans all over how he felt about that, which I think if you asked him honestly, he was probably still holding back quite a bit of his actual feelings. So yeah, that was well done by him.
I think Maryland did good with Buzz though. Like that's about as good of a
Well, he wants to
rebound
be there,
hire as you can
so
make.
yeah,
Like,
that's half the battle. And he like, probably did as good of a job uh, as you could at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's a hard place to win, and he was able to like make Sweet 16s there. So he knows DMV, and he'll be, he'll be. I have no doubt he'll be good at Maryland.
yeah, no doubt. Well, yeah, we can go ahead and get ready to wrap this thing up, but give our parting shots till. I guess there's a story that we decided to get on here and talk about, but
Yeah,
like,
emergency
I'll
show.
definitely give everybody the floor before we get off of here to give their parting shots for the season. But like, um, another I tweeted earlier too, and like another shout out I wanted to give just for everything in general was like being a fan of the sport, like and following the sport this season. Like just a huge shout out to the whole Field of 68 crew. Like as a college basketball fan,
Oh, Travis froze.
Hey,
and like they
but
deserve their flowers. What'd you say?
You froze.
no, you froze on us while you were giving Field of 68 their love.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to give them a shout out for sure. Like they do an incredible job covering the sport, and like they made being a fan of the sport fun. Like being able to watch their shows, like multiple shows a day and streams every night, and all their different podcasts. Like those guys are second to none. Like Goodman, Doster, who was on here, Fanta, um, Terrence Oglesby, Matt McCall. Just they got a fantastic crew over there, and they did an awesome job covering, like they always do. And like I had such a fun time as a fan. It's the most fun I've had as a college basketball fan this year, and they were a huge part of it. They have some absolutely incredible content over there, and like those guys, they work their asses off. I wanted to give them their flowers for that.
Yeah, well deserved. No one
yeah.
quite does it how they do. They are the
and
best in the business.
Appreciate Rob Douster for coming on the podcast too.
Yeah, for sure. Rob's the man. He does an awesome job.
Yeah.
And like and Jeff gets a lot of shit, but like no, like nobody does a better job covering the sport than him. Like he gets a lot of shit, but I don't think because people get so caught up in some of his takes and stuff and get, well, why is he saying mean things about my team? And like if you just
He
put that
was a
stuff
little
aside,
harsh
like,
on my guy Mark Titus the other day on Field 68. He was Fanta had to like dip out of the shot because he did not want to be associated with that.
he was also
But
obviously very intoxicated in
yes,
that.
yeah,
So,
Jeff's
like,
great. Yeah, love Jeff. He's one of the best. Big Jeff guy. So yeah, I hope the Field 68 can continue to get bigger, and yeah, they've done a lot of good for college basketball. Appreciate all the guys over there. And yeah, shout out Rob. Rob's the best coming on, and yeah, good hard UConn fan that Rob is. So yeah, big fan of his. Appreciate him. Appreciate John Fanta, and Jeff. So yeah, that's a great work they do over there. Really happy to, be one of their initial first fans after that Jalen Suggs buzzer beater there, and follow along with them, get to know them there. So that's that's been a lot of fun. So give them a lot of credit there. Yeah, good on them.
And most importantly, though, I wanted to give a shout out to you guys all season for the ride we had coming on and doing these shows a couple times a week since January. 3 hour shows sometimes. Man, it's been fun. Like I'm gonna miss doing these shows, and I'm already stoked for next season. I can't wait. Like we're definitely, we kind of kicked the can around and didn't really start it until January this year. But like next year, like we're going full in next year. Like I say about like a month before the season, we need to start doing previews for different conferences and some predictions and stuff. And like I'm excited. Like thank you to you guys all year for sitting through these some late nights and some rambling and like all it like it's been fun. It's been awesome, and I'm stoked to see how we can continue to grow this thing. But it was certainly a fun year doing the show with you guys, and I really appreciate you guys and your contributions for all we've been able to do.
It's been a fun time. It's been hard work too, because like some nights I've been worn out from working all day, and I get on the podcast and talk college basketball for 3 hours a day. But that's what I'm passionate about. That's what we're all passionate about. Been a great year of covering some college ball on Sectator Media.
Yeah, been fun. Nothing quite like college basketball. The more people seem to watch more of it, the more they love it. And a lot of my friends who are not as into it as I am, that's the number one thing. They've started to get into that more. And of course, I'm going to need way more next year from the Baylor Bears. I'm going to need significantly more. This year, just very rough coming on here and having to defend the Bears for how they played. So, yeah, I'm going to need you, like, probably just more juice segments to justify the Baylor Bears here. And, he is not pleased an SEC team won the national championship here. So, yeah, I'm going to have to lock in with that soon here. But, yeah, nothing quite like college basketball. College basketball is the best when it's at its best. Nothing like NCAA tournament basketball. So, yeah, it's once conference play starts, man, it just reaches a whole new level. So, yeah, looking forward to next season. I was tuning into, I follow the Celtics passionately and watch, all their games and such, and follow the NBA really closely. But tonight, the Thunder and Lakers played. It was 80-72 at halftime. The Thunder were beating the Lakers. What are we doing? No defensive effort or anything.
Hey, you love it when it's Nate Oates.
Yeah, like it was no defensive effort of any kind on either end of the floor, and really no passion shown until Luka got ejected from that game. But yeah, nothing like college basketball. College basketball is the best. And yeah, already kind of in college basketball withdrawal. So,
I was watching baseball tonight, man. I was trying to get the juices flowing again. I was like, I guess it's baseball time, and I was just like, this is not the same. I just couldn't get the. Hey, Auburn got a win tonight, at least against Georgia Tech, 9-8. But like, I was like, man, I love in college baseball too. It's like another underappreciated sport that I think is
sure, yeah,
really blow
absolutely
up
is,
here
yeah.
in the next few years. They really need to do a better job getting access to watching college baseball games, though. Like
They really do. It's funny you mention college baseball. Guess who leads the home run nation in home runs?
it would
college
have to be
baseball.
the ETSU Buccaneers if you're
Yes,
asking.
Grant Gallagher, the absolute stud.
There you go. So we'll see them in Omaha. Yeah.
I was watching the Nationals and the Red Sox and Auburn play baseball this year or tonight, and I was like, I love baseball, but man, I can't. This isn't the same.
I'm not a big baseball person, but basketball.
I should be watching Nevada and San Jose State on Fox right now at 1:00 in the morning. I should be watching Nelly Jr. Joseph.
Oh yeah, I actually need to check in on his eligibility, but yeah,
he's
man
out. I think
he is. He was on that Iona team that UConn blasted in first round of the tournament in 2023 with Walter Clayton and Dennis Jenkins. But yeah, gonna miss Nelly Jr. Joseph. Gonna have to find some new named great player here to see if Gus Johnson would be as enthusiastic about it.
He's going to cruise back over the Florida-Georgia line and ride off into the sunset. He said, Donovan Dent, do you want to ride with me? And he said, no.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Donovan Dent's going out west to UCLA. Mick Cronin's boys ready to take over the Big Ten. Yeah, need more
They
Gus
got nothing on Jake Diebler and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, that's the other thing I need. I need more flag planting in college basketball here. That's what I need. Like seeing his reaction, if Dusty May, or just his reaction in general when Michigan played at Michigan State this year when they had the half court incident. It's like, these fucking guys doing it again. Go again, disrespecting somebody's logo.
I love college football, by the way, but it's like, as time goes on, I saw a tweet earlier this year that stuck with me. And it's like, maybe it's controversial, but to me, it's like, it was funny. It's maturity is realizing how much better a product college basketball is than college football. And I was like, yeah, you got a point.
College football has the environment, but like the product on the field, it's like such a wide gap from you're like the red bloods of college football to like the mid-tier teams. It's not even funny. So it's like inconsistent.
It's not. Well, there really is no tier. It's like the mid-tier and the upper tier teams. And there is no Drake over Missouri does not happen in in college football. That's just not an option.
Everybody bitching oh, this tournament sucked. There's no upsets. I was like, okay, well, save this energy for college football because I don't hear anybody saying this come college football.
There will be plenty of upsets in college football, but yeah, it's that as famous quote there. There's no Cinderella in the trenches. So
yeah,
when Boise State's playing a real, not San Jose State in the college football playoff, it's going to be a little harder for Ashton Jenney to run for 500 yards. But yeah,
when TCU's going up against a bunch of first round picks and
yeah, Max Duggan is running for his life against 8 first round picks on that defense. So yeah, it's college football's great. College football, again, when college football's going, it's also in that college basketball tier because college football has the best regular season in sports. So yeah, it's still pretty great. But yeah, it's college basketball start to finish. It just rarely misses, just ever. There are so many games, it just so many opportunities. I think as the bigger betting becomes nationwide because there's so many college basketball games, I think that also helps its case. So yeah, it's in a good place.
I mean, hell, we started this year I mean, the biggest story was the first week of the season. My team had 2 guys brawling or horseplaying on a plane.
Yes,
and turning it back around and going back to Montgomery for some.
Yeah,
Juf
has still not moved on from that fight. He will say yep, Florida beat them because of that fight on the plane. That's yep. It's I knew it. I knew back then that they were not going to win.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard from him about the SEC. Now I'm sure that was tough
disappointed
for him.
Houston. Yeah, he is not pleased.
I guess I mean, I'm sure he's still going to try to say the SEC was fraudulent, but I'd say the SEC definitely lived up to the billing in this tournament.
I would say so. The regular season champion and tournament champion were in the Final Four, so yes, I would.
Half of the Final Four, the national champion, half of the Final Four, half of the Elite Eight, 6 of the Sweet 16. I think the SEC did all right for
Think so.
themselves.
Yeah. Think so.
And I'm not an SEC conference pride. Like, I was rooting for Houston last night, but the idea, like,
That thing is much more important to me in football than basketball. But yeah, had I not picked Florida, I probably would have been rooting for Houston.
Yeah. Well, anything else before we call it a wrap, boys?
I think that's it.
Well, everybody, make sure you continue to follow along on Sectator Media for all the content that's going to be coming out, all the different shows, and keep an eye out for whenever we pop up and do one of these again. And make sure you follow at one Shining Recap on Twitter. We'll definitely try to get some more content going there and try to get our Twitter page juiced up more. So eventually we can move these streams over on there and just not investing in a blue check mark for an account with 17 followers. Going to try to build that up a little bit more before I do that, so we can stream on there, because you have to buy a blue check mark to stream on there. So gonna try to do that and migrate those over there. But yeah, follow along Sectator Media, and yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, everybody who's watched us all season, and just keep your eye out, because we'll pop up with a few of these in the off season, and come the fall we'll fire it back up and get ready for another great season of hoops. And hopefully all three of us have competitive teams to talk about again. I kind of had got to have the bragging rights on the year or on the pod this year with team wise, but I certainly don't think that'll be the case next year, because Purdue and UConn are both shaking up to be pretty damn solid. So should be a even more fun year for us next year with all of our teams swinging a hot bat. So but yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we shall be back, but I don't know when. So we are going on hiatus, but until then, we'll see you.